Hey guys, this is Paul, or Cheap College Guy, and my first review is going to be on a Swiss Army knife, more specifically the Victorinox Spartan Swiss Army knife. And there's actually only two real Swiss Army knife makers. One is Victorinox, the original, and then Wegner, which I've actually not used a whole lot of their products, so I can't really say. But I like Victorinox because it is the original, and they have a very good pricing system. And this knife, if you go to bladehq.com, link in my lap, will be $18.30 as of mid-December 2012. And that's a very good deal for all you get. I mean, what you're getting basically is this minus the pliers, this in plain edge, and that. So you're getting a lot of tools for a very small amount of money. And let's go into that. This is a red celluloid handle. They do make an A-LOX handle, not version of the Spartan, but Swiss Army knives, and I actually really enjoyed them. Unfortunately, I lost my only A-LOX, and it's probably in my room somewhere, but that will definitely be a review that you will see later on the A-LOX version of the Swiss Army knife. But this is the red celluloid, this is the Spartan. It's a two-layer Swiss Army knife, so there's kind of a limited tool capacity, and we'll open this up. First you have the large, or the main blade, I guess you should say, not large, but the main blade. This is not a locking blade, this is a slip joint. Some people might have a problem with that. For me, you know, when I'm cutting, it's going back. I don't usually cut with the back of the knife, so I mean, I very rarely ever see the need for locks on knives anymore. I love locking knives. I mean, I have a lot of them, but I also love slip joints because, one, they're just really simple, and two, they have very thin blades. And that thin blade is going to mean it slices very well. This is a very good food prep knife. This is actually really good for cutting down cardboard. It's soft enough that you can strap it on a belt very easily. You can even strap it on cardboard and get a usable edge out of it, and I have done that a lot, and that will save your blade for a long time. Very soft stainless steel in Victorinox, and I'm not sure as a result, but it is very, very stainless. You know, people say, you know, stainless, I don't have to worry about putting oil on it or it rusting out. Not true. There's lots of stainless blades that have a very high carbon content and will rust out on you. And any steel except H1 or any of the other nitrogen fixed steels will rust out on you. But this is very, very stainless. I've seen the Rockwell from 57 to 58, which means that it is going to be very soft, and you're going to need to sharpen it. But it's soft enough that even a novice could sharpen it and get a usable edge out of it. And I can get very, very fine edges on this steel. So the large blade is, I believe it's a 2 3/4 inch blade, and you can see me there, yeah, which is technically over the limit for federal buildings. I have been searched going into a federal building, and I had this with me, and they let me go. So I think part of it is the red handles. It's a Swiss Army knife. People don't really consider this to be, you know, a weapon. It's a tool, and it's a very good tool, and you can take it a lot of places, you know, barring courthouses and airports and places that no blades are allowed. But for most places, this is a very good knife. Actually, I use this as my keychain. We'll get to that later. So you have your main blade, and you have your small blade. Some people don't like the small blades. I personally do. I reprofiled this blade and brought the relief edge back because I wanted a very, very fine blade for whittling. I got into whittling about a year ago, and I'm still very, very novice at it, but I enjoy it, and this works very well. It's a very thin blades cut very well because there's less drag, there's less splitting of the material and more cutting of the material. So a very good blade for whittling. I know a lot of people that keep the pen blades on their jackknives or their Swiss Army knives, the smaller blades, they keep dull and use it as a scraper or, you know, a strip insulation. I've even seen them, you know, cutting open cans for this and that. instead of using the can opener. But so you know, it's your tool. You can do with it what you wish. I like to keep mine very, very sharp, and it keeps an edge for a relatively long time. So those are the blades, the large and the small. And then you get into kind of the more tool set. This is probably my favorite can opener in the industry as far as multi-tools go. It opens cans very, very quickly. I actually have opened cans faster than people using a typical can opener. And I like this design much more than Leatherman's. And Leatherman still uses the same basic design, and it works very well. It's a good cross between this and the bottle opener I'll show you later. But see how this has a very broad blade, so you can get a lot of cutting action. You go a long ways before you have to lift and continue. This is a very short blade, so it just pierces. So I much prefer this design to Leatherman's. Also, you get a little, you can either use it as a flat bladed screwdriver or as a Phillips driver. It works very well in both those capacities. The only problem I have with using it as a Phillips is if the Phillips is really broad, then I end up dulling this edge. And there's a little bit of an edge there. It's not sharp, but it's a bevel, and you can resharpen it. It is very soft. So if you start noticing that cutting, opening cans takes a lot more work than it used to, just take a, either diamond or a whetstone and do a few strokes, and it should be back up to normal. That brings us to the most important tool, the bottle opener. This is a very good bottle opening design. Again, I like it a lot more than Leatherman's combo, because this seems that it really tries to pierce into the cap. This just pops it right off. Much easier than trying to open it on the edge of a table, and much less damaging. So again, bottle opener, great. The flat bladed screwdriver is, again, very broad, and the problem I have with this is it is beveled on one side and it's flat on the other. The problem with this is it's polished. The advantage of having it polished is it doesn't rust as much. The polish doesn't keep water there. It resists rust for a much longer time than if it was satin finished or still rough finished. But the satin rough finish grab onto the edges of screws much more easily, so you'll notice that this flips out a little bit more. If you keep pressure on it though, it works just fine. Again, this is a multi-tool. This isn't a purpose-built tool. This is a tool that is designed to do many things relatively well. Which brings us to the wire stripper. I've never used that wire stripper, so I can't speak to its effectiveness. That's all I have to say on that. So there's the front side. It's a two-layer design, so it's very thin. It's a very thin design. The two-layer A-locks, it comes to about, let's see if I can get this to focus. There we go. Comes to about the edge of the liner. You can see that. Comes to the edge of this liner. So it's a little bit thinner, but these are a little bit lighter and less expensive. A two-layer A-locks will cost you anywhere from $20 to $25, so not that much more expensive, but a little bit. And the red cellular handles, the red plastic handles, are very durable. I did chip this out, but that was my own fault, not Victorinox's. I threw this across the street because it's attached to my keys, and my girlfriend locked herself out of the car, so I just tossed it over. She missed the catch, and it hit concrete, and that's all that happened. So, very tough. On the back side, because you have two sides, you have the corkscrew, which works very well as a corkscrew. I also like, people think that, well, I don't drink wine, I don't need a corkscrew. Also works very well for cleaning out under your fingernails. Also, what I've noticed is I can also drill this into softer woods like pine, and then use this as a hanger. Probably not recommended by Victorinox, because you don't, and then you don't pull out, you unscrew it. But it has worked before. Probably not ideal, but there you go. And then the awl. And this is a very good awl as far as awl designs go. It's not inline, so you can't use it as easily to strike a fire steel or something like that. You probably could if you held it like this and then drew it. Haven't tried it. As an awl, as a piercing repair tool, it works very well. It is very broad, so understand that this is most likely for leather or for drilling into wood, Drilling small holes into wood, not drilling, but piercing into leather or very thick material, because if you try to, like, oh, you know, I don't have a needle but I have my Victorinox, and try to fix a pair of pants, you'll probably end up with a bunch of very large holes and very rough stitches. It will probably hold, but the eye is big enough to fit the guts of a 550 cord, which has a 50-pound test strength, so if you need more than that on your clothes, then good for you. But I don't. I've only used this once as an awl. I have used it to drill some holes, and actually it cleans pipes out very well. If you're smoking tobacco, if you're over the age of 18 in a pipe, and this works very well to clean it out, because it won't cut in as much as, say, the small blade will. So there's that. And then you have not a bail, but a keychain holder with a split ring, and I attach my my car key to this, and this is my keychain essentially. And the reason I chose this one instead of the classic, which is in many people's minds a better design for a keychain, is that if this is all I grab, if I'm just like, oh, I need to run to the bank, or I need to run to the post office, I have a knife, I have a multi-tool, I have a knife, I have screwdrivers, I have tweezers, the infamous or famous, depending on who you are, Victorinox tweezers. Very good for pulling splinters out and grabbing very small, fine things. The toothpick, I actually very much enjoy. I unfortunately lost it when that happened. That came out. Some people think it's unsanitary. Probably was. I wash it off once a week. Call me gross, but it worked very well. So that's the overview of the Victorinox Spartan. I really enjoy this knife, and I think a lot of people overlook Swiss Army knives when they think of an EDC knife. I mean, it fits really well in the pocket. If you get the thinner versions, they don't really mess up the line of slacks. They have a relatively large main blade that you can get very sharp and keeps its edge for a relatively long time, and you can resharpen. I actually had a really hard time sharpening S30V the first time I tried, and I'm very used to sharpening knives. I've been doing it for 5 years now, and I still had a problem with it. So very soft steel means that you can resharpen it, you can strop it, and it will maintain an edge that way. Red handles are very attractive in my opinion. The celluloid, they're attractive. They're very easy to engrave with a knife, if you can get that to focus. Have my own little maker's mark there. You can kind of see it. Yeah, that's about as good as it's going to get. But they're very tough. I mean, that was from throwing it 50 feet onto concrete, and that's all that happened. I mean, the scaler is still on there. So I think that a lot of people overlook Swiss Army knives when they think of an EDC knife or as a multi-tool. Most people, when they think of a multi-tool, let's get this back in, think of Leatherman. And there are two things I miss when I carry this. One is the pliers. Victorinox does sell ones with pliers, but again, you're getting rid of that thinness. That thinness that makes it so easy to carry. This is just as thin. It's actually a little bit thinner. But look how much longer it is. Look how much bigger it is, even closed up. And this is a small one. This is an old model PST. You know, this is much lighter. This weighs, I think, 3 ounces. And this weighs 7. So, yeah, as an EDC knife, as a first knife, this would be great. You know, sheeple don't really run when they see a Swiss Army knife. So as an EDC knife, it's great. As a keychain, I think if you can hang with a larger keychain, it works really well. The others aren't very tough. I've used this as a pry bar, not as much as I've used this. This is a little widget bar. I'll do a review on this. But this can take some serious torque. I mean, these aren't flimsy knives. These are very well built knives, and I think they deserve your consideration. So, if you're on a budget, you want an EDC knife, you want a multi-tool, I'd consider the Victorinox Spartan. Again, $18 on BladeHQ.com, $20 on Amazon. Go and buy yourself one. It's well worth it.